Okay, who is ready for this episode? Because I'm going to go over kind of a controversial topic, at least in the wedding and event industry, that is specific to mainly photographers, and that is, drumroll, flat fee retainers. In the past, photographers were used to taking, say, 50% retainers on the total value of the booking as a reservation retainer that was non-refundable. But here's what happened. When COVID-19 hit, clients started saying that the photographer didn't deserve to keep that 50% because none of the service had been rendered at all. You hadn't photographed the wedding, you hadn't delivered images, and the clients were saying the 50% isn't a reasonable amount for a non-refundable booking retainer because they just paid that to block out a day on your calendar. And here's what this amounted to, you guys. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in refunds of retainers since March. Whether that is a full refund or oftentimes it was a partial refund on behalf of photographers, which basically tanked our industry. So today I am here as the legal Paige to chat with all of you photographers out there and some videographers, florists, DJs, caterers, hair and makeup providers. This will probably pertain to you as well. So get your ears ready to listen in about why flat fee retainers are the way to go from here on out. No more percentage retainers, and why flat fee retainers are more legally legit than any type of percentage retainer. Okay? Well, let's get into this juicy episode, my friends. You're listening to the Legal Paige podcast, where we chat about life and business with a legal twist. I'm Paige, attorney and photographer helping online businesses and creatives tackle their business dreams without breaking out in hives. No more legal mumbo jumbo. This podcast features simple, bite-sized advice that'll have you legally legit in no time. Are you ready? Let's get started. As a reminder, before we get into this episode, I am legally obligated to give my disclaimer. So I am an attorney, but I am not your attorney. All legal information I talk about on this episode is intended for the masses and a large variety of different businesses. I am only your attorney when you hire me and we sign an engagement letter for me to work specifically on your legal issues. Please feel free to seek out another attorney in your hometown if you need specific legal advice or contact me for more information. Alrighty, here's the episode, friends. Okay, you guys, here is what we are deep diving into in this episode. I'm just going to give you an outline because it's going to be quite the episode. First, we're chatting about where we were at pre-COVID in the wedding and event industry. And second, we're going to talk about more in depth what happened during COVID and is basically still happening now. I'm recording this in October 2020. And third, how flat fee retainers will resolve this massive issue with finances and refunds of retainers. And then I'm just briefly going to talk about there's some bonuses to flat fee retainers and why I suggest you do them. Okay, starting first, where were we at pre-COVID? Everyone basically in the wedding industry, besides a few select individuals, which I'm going to pat you on the back here, most of us were charging a percentage of the total fee. So usually this was anywhere about 50 to 30% of the total package price. And if you, say, had a $5,000 wedding, then you would be taking usually a 50% retainer to book your services and block out the date on your calendar. That was about a $2,500 retainer. Now, if for a $5,000 package, that would make sense, $2,500 retainer. But here was the big issue. You were charging clients a different amount to book, say, a Saturday date on your calendar based upon what package they booked for you. So you would be taking a 50% retainer from everyone. So someone who booked a $5,000 wedding package from you to book a Saturday event date on your calendar would be paying $2,500 as their booking retainer. Again, this is just a booking reservation retainer. But then you would be taking only $1,500 as a booking retainer for like the exact same Saturday on your calendar for someone who would only book a $3,000 package of yours. You're seeing kind of what I'm getting at here. That is not reasonable because you're having two different clients pay you a different thing for just blocking out a Saturday date on your calendar. You still haven't performed services for them yet. Of course, there's additional services with a larger wedding package, so on and so forth. But the real issue here was the reasonableness of your retainer. And this is a legal issue because attorneys were attaching on to the reasonableness argument that clients could make. It's different per client. This is what happened during COVID and is still happening. So just quickly moving into the second topic here. Clients got mad that their entire retainer wasn't refundable. Photogs and wedding pros were just scrambling, trying to show that the retainer was reasonable, but that they still hadn't performed XYZ services. And then really persistent clients ended up really winning the battle from, March till now in about October 2020. And they usually got some type of refund if they were super persistent. They were still saying, $2,500 for my $5,000 wedding was not a reasonable amount because other people were only having to pay you $1,500. Now I'm out basically $1,000 extra dollars and my wedding's not happening, nor is theirs. They usually got some type of partial refund, right? Because we had, there was a booking amount there somewhere in that $2,500, but you hadn't performed really any other services. And then you as the photographer are put in a position where you had to transfer all of the retainer amounts to a date in 2021 or 2022 when ultimately you had performed a lot of services upfront to that point. Many of us were sitting in a position where we're a year post booking. So we've done so many things and communicated so much with our clients, and we're probably planning things with our clients and giving them referrals and sending them out guides, so on and so forth. So you've already done a lot of actual services that you could probably clock if you were like pressing a button that you're working for X client at this time and then you're unpressing. But we don't do that in our world. So I totally understand that. And then here's what's really going on. There are tons of lawsuits right now in regards to retainers and the reasonableness of those retainers. And all of your clients and their attorneys are arguing that you're charging different things for each client when really the booking retainer should only be to book out X date on your calendar. That's it. That's the whole point of a booking retainer. And then ultimately, you guys, those cases are starting to litigate now. So the lawsuit was filed. They were probably in some settlement proceedings. Settlement maybe didn't happen. And now they are litigating. So now it's in the court's hands to really decide whether or not the retainer was reasonable, what's happening with the retainer. Have the services actually been performed by the photographer or the florist or the DJ up to this point? Okay, now I'm just going to get into this because here is your answer. Flat fee retainers will resolve all of this. First and foremost, you don't want to put in the hands of your clients the argument of reasonableness. And here's what that means. If you are charging different clients different amounts to book and retain your services so that no one else can book you on that date, that's unreasonable. You should not be charging people different amounts to book a date on your calendar. Maybe you're performing more and more services on that date. Say you're performing services for 6 hours versus 10 hours versus 14 hours. That's different. But it doesn't matter because if you're performing 6 hours of services for someone, you're still not going to take another wedding on that date, right? So it's to book out that date on your calendar. That is what a retainer is for. Basically, you are giving your clients the ability to argue this and probably to win this is what I'm seeing across the board as we've done our legal research here at the legal page. Don't do that. Like, why would you even want to put this argument in their hands? So here's what you do. You make the booking retainer fee the same across the board. It will be different per photographer or per wedding event pro, and I understand that. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to look at your package prices and see what makes the most sense for an upfront reservation retainer to book their event or wedding on your calendar. So since you're going to decline all other services on that date, I mean, I don't know anyone who's basically providing any other type of photography services on a wedding date other than for your wedding clients. So this is how this works because you're not going to say yes to anyone else. And this is a non-refundable reservation retainer. Reservation retainer, booking retainer, same thing. So say you have 3 different packages, and this is pretty normal in like the photography world. If you have 1 package, this is going to be so easy for you. But if you have 3 packages, say one being $3,000, one being $5,000, and one being $7,000, I would average about 30 to 40% of the lowest package price you have for the booking retainer for a sought after Saturday wedding. And that's going to be the same booking retainer for all of your packages. I understand. Don't get nervous yet. I'm going to tell you how this is going to work because I know you're like, whoa, 30 to 40% of my $3,000 package, 50%. Okay. So 50% is $1,500, 40% about $1,200, all right? So you want to ensure, of course, that your booking retainer is less than 50% of all your packages. That's really important, which is why I say start with the lowest first, because most people would be in a position where they'd be willing to book you probably for your lowest package, right? They have the amount to do that, but you always want them to book the higher packages. So no matter what package they book, you still want to ensure that you're getting a decent amount for a booking retainer. That's why I say anywhere from about 30 to 40% is a really good number, and it's always going to be less than 50%. And then I will tell you why this is important because you're like, no, Paige, I want that 50% up front. I know. We're getting there. I promise. Just stick with me. So for this photographer, she would say do I'm just going to round the number here, $1,250 retainer to book a Saturday date on her calendar because that is a sought after wedding date. Usually Saturdays across the board are going to be the hot dates for everyone. Maybe if you're like an adventure elopement photography world, it doesn't matter. You probably just have a set fee. So this is going to be really easy for you because it doesn't matter the date. But for many of us who are in kind of the regular like venue, location, large wedding situation, you definitely want to ensure that you have one amount for a booking retainer for Saturdays and then one amount for every other day of the week. But let's stick here with a Saturday wedding date. So $1,250 would probably be this photographer's retainer. Then if you do book the higher package, there's probably something more involved in that bigger package, right? Maybe it's additional planning. Maybe it's more upfront work, say for adventure photographers who are location scouting and planning out the adventure elopement. I want you to take a hard look. This is imperative, you guys. Take a hard look at what services you're actually performing for all of your clients from the time of booking to the time you show up and serve them. And then maybe even have a ton of time in post-production stage as a photographer, right? Like, where is your timing actually being clocked for that client? And it's going to be different per package. And this is how you're going to have more money. You're going to break up the remaining payments that will not be refundable or transferable because those are services that you've already rendered. And this is the key to ensure that in events like COVID-19, the only non-refundable retainer that would be transferable due to a force majeure event like COVID-19 would be the booking retainer. But all of the other services you've performed, they're already done. You've already been paid for them. So they can't get a refund because you've already performed those services. Okay. I need to explain this by way of an example because it's going to be a lot easier for you all to comprehend. I know your heads are spinning right now, but I promise you, this is the way to go. And this is how I foresee the wedding and event industry moving forward past this and having a huge change in their, fee structure. So say Teresa is a wedding photographer and she wants to move to a flat fee retainer structure. So she decides that $1,500 is the best Saturday flat fee retainer amount based upon her packages, and that she will only charge $1,000 as a retainer for any other date, Sunday through Friday, okay? Are you with me? $1,500 is her flat fee retainer for every Saturday date. if they want to book a Saturday date. And then it's $1,000 for them to reserve any other day, Sunday through Friday. Now, for each of Teresa's packages, she realizes what type of payment structure makes the most sense. So for the $3,000 package, she will likely not have anything else due up front since $1,500 is already around 50% of the total amount. But for say a $5,000 package or a $7,000 package, she will want to have some type of additional service fee due up front, due upon booking, in addition to the booking retainer. So she would tell her clients that $1,500 is the booking retainer for any Saturday date on my calendar, or $1,000 if it's, a Sunday through Friday date, no matter the package. I don't care what package you're going to book from me. It's always going to be $1,500 for a Saturday date. And then say if the $3,000 package, you would have nothing else due up front. But for a $5,000 package, you may have an additional $750 service fee due upon booking, which would amount for the next 90 days of services that I'm providing for you. And then you'd say, which is XYZ. So this is where you got to take a good hard look at what you actually perform for your clients from the time that they book you to the time that you send the final gallery to them and you're done providing all of your services. Then you would keep splitting up payments depending on the services you render for your clients. Whether that's engagement sessions, planning services, guides you're sending them, email communication back and forth. Are you referring out to different industry professionals? So I would likely break up a $5,000 package into the following. So for all of you who maybe have that middle package, this is what I would do. A $1,500 retainer with X amount due up front for, say, the first 90 days of services that you're performing up after booking. So maybe that's like $500. Okay, I'm just going to put a number out there. That $500 would never be refundable and would never be transferable because after 90 days, they've paid you for the services that you've rendered during that time. It's over. It's done with. So the issue of you ever having to refund $500 of a retainer would never be an issue. You're making it a non-issue. You just have the booking retainer at $1,500 that we're dealing with. Now let's look back at the numbers because you have a $1,500 booking retainer for any package, okay? But they're booking the $5,000 package, so they have another $500 due for the first 90 days of services you're performing, and you explain to them what those are so they understand it. And this all goes in your contract too, you guys, because then it's really extrapolating what X payment is for, what is refundable and what is not transferable, so on and so forth. So you have $2,000 that your clients pay up front. Now you can split the rest of that. I always now want you to look at what you are actually providing your clients. Try to have that bigger amount due at the end of the payment structure process. Because for photographers, photographing and editing, the day of services and post-production services are really the bulk of what you're providing to clients. And we all found this issue with COVID-19 is clients are like, you didn't photograph and you didn't give us any photos. It actually, everything that we booked you for hasn't happened. And this was the big issue with COVID-19 and retainers. So for a $5,000 wedding, I'd make that final payment somewhere between $2,000 to $2,500, which is, the 50% that would be due 30 days prior to the wedding. And that's for the bulk of your services. I like to have, honestly, if you're tuning in and you're really crunching numbers with me here, I like to have, say, the $2,000 be more than the booking retainer. Because really, the retainer is just to book that date, but the services you're providing is the bulk of what they are actually hiring you to do. Okay, so you have a $1,500 booking fee, okay, if you're with me still, and you have a $2,000 due 30 days prior to the event date, which is solely basically for you photographing and editing. You're going to lay this all out in your contract. But that's only $3,500, right, of the total $5,000. What you would do is you're going to split that additional $1,500 that's left that they need to pay somehow into, say, 3 to 4 payments that are due over time. from the date of booking to the day that is 30 days prior to the event date. And again, for simplicity, it would probably be $500. So 3 payments of $500 you have to split up somehow. And you always want that first payment due upon booking. So a $1,500 non-refundable reservation fee, then a $500 additional service fee due upon booking. And then you would split the additional 2 $500 payments, say 3 months later and then 6 months later, with the final payment due maybe 11 months after booking. And then you'd have the additional 2 $500 payments due kind of equally in increments across that time period between the booking date and the final payment due. That's 30 days before the wedding. So usually it's probably like 4 months after and then 8 months after. And then the final payment would be due like 11 or 12 months from the time of booking. Of course, no one is going to have like this perfect 12-month timeline from the time your clients book you and then 12 months later is their actual wedding date. But again, you can see what I'm saying to do here. You're going to split that like amount, the difference between your booking retainer fee and the final payment due. You need to split that amount that is the difference between those two and the full package price into equal payments that are due upfront and then throughout the payment process until the final payment's due. And let me just say this, your CRM system should be able to automate the payments to be split into 3 payments or 4 payments, so on and so forth. And then you can really make this easy for your clients. If they want to split this up into even 8 payments or 10 payments, I know that seems crazy, but it's going to be so much easier for you to say, the booking retainer is absolutely non-refundable. I may transfer it due to a force majeure event, but the $1,500 is what I take for every single client. And then because I've done more for you, you've booked a higher package, yada, 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 you would split it. They could pay $100 every month and that would never be refundable because you've already performed services. So really, what we've learned post-COVID is you want to try to keep everything, even more than the 50% because you've performed so many services. And you're probably going to have like, if you have a $5,000 package, you're probably going to have $2,000 to $2,500 that would be due prior to the wedding date. That is the amount you may lose out on with a force majeure event. And you're just shifting those finances to be due later on down the road in 2021 or 2022 for the wedding. Hopefully that all made sense to you all. Now, I want to get into the bonuses of this type of retainer and payment structure. First, less legal issues with your clients. You have the same booking retainer fee for every single client for every Saturday date. Maybe it's a little less for a Sunday through Friday date. Less legal issues. It's reasonable. It's a reasonable retainer. You're charging everyone the same price. Just if they want a bigger package, you are providing more hours of coverage. Maybe you're helping them with planning services or location scouting services or an engagement session. That would make sense for them to pay more for that amount. But any client who's booking you for a Saturday date would pay X amount. Number 2, there's no going backwards trying to explain what their payments were actually for. That's what all of us were caught up in COVID-19 world. We were saying, well, I've done this service and this service and this service, so no, you shouldn't get a refund. Like, why even get into that? Okay. We all had to do it. We've all learned our lesson. I'm always someone who says we can only learn from our failures. They shouldn't bring us down. They should help us succeed in the future. So here's what you do. You have a flat fee retainer. Maybe you have a little bit more upfront due upon booking for your services because maybe you heavily perform things in the first 90 days. I know for a lot of you adventure elopement photographers, you're like planning things out for your clients in those first 90 days. So you'd heavily weigh payments up front. But still, you have to photograph, shoot, edit, and deliver your clients, photos, wedding photos. That is like the main thing that they're providing for you. But you're never having to go backward if you put all of this in your contract. X is due at booking to reserve the date. X is due at booking for the first 90 days. Then we're splitting the rest of the payments into 3 more payments. That is for the services performed from X date to X date, and then X date to X date. And then the final payment, boom, it's a larger amount, and that's for photographing, editing, post-production. You would never have to explain that for clients because it's how your payment structure is laid out and it's what's in your contract. Number 3, you're now in control and can see your numbers. I know we all fell into this trap. We were all like massive cash flow issues because you were missing out on those 50% remainders that were due 30 days prior to the weddings. And then we all didn't have the weddings this year. And so nobody paid that extra 50%. When you are in control and can see your numbers, you have a booking fee that might be transferable with a COVID or force majeure type of situation. All of the services you performed in between, never refundable. Then you will only lose out on that final payment for not performing day of services. So the booking fee is non-refundable, but maybe transferable. All your services, non-refundable and non-transferable. Do you see what I'm getting at here? You are actually going to make more money with a flat fee retainer situation if shit were to hit the fan and COVID-19, something like this happened again. Any type of force majeure event. This is all those what if situations that we all can't predict. This is what I'm trying to, ensure that you guys don't have heartache from. And number 4, you can upsell later on. This is a huge bonus of this type of payment structure. This is really nice to be able to say if you're a photographer or a DJ and they think that you only need to be there for 5 hours and they have no idea, right? They can't fully comprehend the type of wedding day that the client is actually going to plan. But they're like, oh, no, 5 or 6 hours should be enough. Totally cool. You can just say, no need to choose a package now. Let's just get you in with the $1,500 retainer to reserve the date on my calendar. We'll go with the lowest package. And then later on down the road, we can decide whether you want an additional engagement session or a day after session or a second shooter, or maybe you want to bump up to 10 hours of coverage instead of 6. I promise you guys, and with my experience in basically the wedding and event industry for the past decade, clients are way more likely to forget about a $1,500 retainer and want to buy more of your services closer to the wedding date once they've spent all this time planning out every little detail of their day and they want to ensure all of those details are photographed. And now they're actually seeing on their wedding timeline, okay, I need you for 10 hours and not 6. They will not forget about a $2,500 or $3,000 retainer and are less likely to purchase more from you. But if you have a lower amount due up front, they will forget that amount more easily and you can upsell later on. It's really cool. This payment structure, flat fee retainers, I am all about them, you guys. I could just scream from the rooftops why I think that this is the way to go. Less legal issues, no going backward trying to explain what their payments were actually for. You are now in control and can see your numbers, and you can upsell later on. Boom. Mic drop. Bonuses of a flat fee retainer structure. So cool. Now, I know a lot of you are probably freaking out with this big change in payments and how you're going to do it. I promise you, though, it's worth it. Obviously, you can't go backwards. You can't really do anything with your clients that have already booked you, but you can move forwards like this. You're going to change your fee and retainer clause. You're going to change the way that you charge clients if they start booking you as of today. From a legal standpoint, and just from a basic financial standpoint, it makes sense. I promise you it makes sense. So if you have further questions about this, and I know probably many of you do because you all do things differently. I understand we're always changing, what we're charging clients and what we're adding to our packages, so on and so forth. Please come join the Legal Paige community on Facebook, where we will be chatting about flat fee retainers in depth for the next few weeks. I'm going to go live in my group to answer all of your questions, basically once a week, if not twice a week, because I know a lot of you are going to want to continue the conversation, and then you need me or my team's legal input. So please jump in the Legal Paige community on Facebook. You can just type that into the search bar and post your question there if you have something additional that you need from me. Oh, and if you have a Legal Paige contract template from the TLP shop for wedding photography or elopement photography, we have updated the fee and retainer clauses within those contracts to reflect this flat fee retainer change, because we here as lawyers agree that this is the best way to take payments moving forward. And so we are going to give you this change within your contract templates. That's all, you guys. I hope that made sense. I hope number crunching's just made sense for you. Flat fee retainers, the way to go. I know this is a sticky topic of conversation, but it's one that needs to be had because we are seeing so many legal repercussions with percentages of total fees for photography services and wedding and event industry pros. I hope this was a really awesome episode for you all. If you have further questions, you know where to find me. The Legal Paige, Paige, basically everywhere.com, on Instagram, on Facebook. Bye, friends. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Legal Paige podcast. See, I told you being legally legit isn't so scary. Be sure to visit thelegalpaige.com for all show notes. And it would be super awesome if you could head over to iTunes and leave a review. Last but not least, don't forget to join my free Facebook group for unlimited legal and biz Q&A. Chat soon, Legal Pagers.